Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. Amy uses Abyssal Harvester to exile a Grizzly Bears. Later, she casts a clone on the Grizzly Bear's Nightmare token. If she uses the Abyssal Harvester ability to create another creature token after that, will the clone get exiled along with the Grizzly Bear's Nightmare? The first thing that I want to look at is exactly how the Abyssal Harvester's exile clause functions. It says to exile all other Nightmare tokens you control. This wording means it looks for two specific traits. Is it a token, and does it have the Nightmare creature type? This ability will exile anything that answers yes to both those questions. In particular, it doesn't matter what kind of Nightmare token it is. One consequence of this is that if you have two Abyssal Harvesters, then that will not let you get one token for each of them. Rather, each one will exile tokens made not just by itself, but by the other one also. Another consequence is that this card doesn't play very well with Ashiok. Now let's consider the question of whether the clone in the original problem statement will count as a Nightmare or not. Longtime fans of the channel may recall that normally when you copy a permanent, you don't copy any type-changing effects acting on the thing that you're copying. So, for example, if you had a dub on a Grizzly Bears and then cloned that, the clone would just be a normal Grizzly Bears. It would just be a bear, it wouldn't also be a knight. It also wouldn't have first strike, and it would just be a 2/2, not a 4/4, because those types of effects aren't copied either. The analogy I like to use is that you take the piece of cardboard that you're copying over to the copy machine and hit the copy button. Then you paste what comes out on top of the clone. Since we only took the Grizzly Bears card to the copy machine, the buffs from dub are not seen by the game. The situation is a little bit different with Abyssal Harvester though. It says that the token is a copy of Grizzly Bears, except that it's a Nightmare in addition to its other types. Because this is a modification to the copying process, it can affect the copyable values of the Grizzly Bears token. To continue the analogy from earlier, such effects function by modifying what comes out of the copy machine with, say, a marker before pasting them on the clone. Or if you prefer a more technical explanation, such effects set the base characteristics of the copy as opposed to effects like dub that change what those characteristics are after the fact. All this is to say that yes, if you make a token with Abyssal Harvester and then clone that token, the clone will be a Nightmare. Unfortunately, all this interesting discussion is completely moot because although the clone is a Nightmare, it is not a token. Whether or not something is a token is not a copyable characteristic. It's an intrinsic property of that permanent. There's no way to make a token into a non-token, or vice versa, outside of some goofy cards that don't function within Magic's normal rules anyway. Therefore, the clone will not be exiled because it is not a token. And that's not all I have for you today, because it turns out there's another question related to these two cards that I think some people might have wondered about when they saw this episode's thumbnail. What would happen if you used Abyssal Harvester's ability to exile a clone card from your graveyard? In that case, you would create a token that's a copy of clone. As such, the token would have all of clone's normal abilities, meaning that it could enter the battlefield as a copy of your choice of any creature that was already there. One copy effect can overwrite another, meaning that if you had clone enter the battlefield as something else, it would just be a normal copy of that creature, i.e. it would not be a Nightmare. Well, not unless the thing that you chose to have it enter as a copy of was a Nightmare normally. Assuming you copied a non-Nightmare, that would mean that if you activated Abyssal Harvester again, the token would not be exiled. It turns out that these two make a pretty good team. Who would have thought? And that's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again next time for another daily ruling. Until then, I hope you have a great day.